Images. And so again, we have this wall is artist friends. Does anybody know who these folks are? Recognize them? You think?
Alex.
Very good. So Alex here and there. Famous sculptor, big colorful crushed automobile parts, died recently. John Chamberlain. I think I heard somebody say Baldessari. And then James Sienna, who is also represented by Pace Gallery. And what's funny about this one is actually that this begins to look like one of James Sienna's pieces. He oftentimes works more often than not in a very diminutive scale. But I have recently seen some large-scale works, but this is very much in keeping with his style of using very small gestural marks, meticulously rendered, and the coloration is very similar too to Sienna's work. So this is a good time to point out that at the beginning of his career, he wanted to paint his friends. He wanted to paint people who were anonymous, who were not famous. And it's been said a million times, and I'll say it again, is that what happened with him was he and all of his friends became famous. So anytime he paints somebody's picture now, if they're a friend, oftentimes they're going to be somebody that you know. So it was interesting going through the big show yesterday. There was only one person that I think might not be familiar to a lot of people, and that's his new girlfriend. So at any rate, there was, just kind of read like a who's who of contemporary art world. It was Cindy Sherman. There was, well, not just contemporary art world, but contemporary culture. There's a really nice piece of Lou Reed. So it just kind of goes on and on. So he's no longer able to keep with that original intent. And one other thing is that he's oftentimes said that, and I don't think to date has actually ever accepted a commission. And he said that when somebody is, his feeling is that when somebody is commissioning a painting, they're not interested in seeing all the little bumps and blemishes and all that sort of thing. So, and that's obviously what he's all about, is kind of showing all those, stray hairs and so forth. I mean, obviously, in that wonderful etching of white ink on black paper there, he could very much have, cleaned up his beard a little bit in the process, but that was all about the details. Everything is very much about recording every little bit. And if you're focused so much on those every little pore, then you forget about, quite frankly, you forget about the bigger challenge of actually rendering the image. Yes, sir.
Could you say again what this process is?
This is a lino cut here, I think. Let me just triple check. Yeah, well, it's a reduction block. And I actually, if you'll give me, because I was going to talk about the reduction block process right around the corner, which is mind-numbing, and I still don't think I've got it fully figured out. But since we're standing in front of this big thing, we might as well go ahead and do it. The reductive lino cut process is essentially taking a linoleum block that has been untouched, so it's perfectly flat, and inking it up with your black ink and pressing that onto the paper. So you've created a field of black. Then your next tone up, or your next lighter tone, you then cut away. I'll make sure I'm getting this right, because it's totally backwards. Do you know?
I know how difficult it is to understand.
You cut away the black area. Everything you wanted to stay black is
right.
that is cut away.
Right, exactly. Thank you, thank you. So the last thing is, and then you ink up those high points on the linoleum, or those remain.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
You repeat it.
All right. You start with black, so that's already on your paper. So any place that you want to stay black, that's what you carve away.
So I'm carving.
The next color you're going to put on is going to be different than black.
It may be that one.
So you're cutting away everything that you've just printed. It's reductive. So you
cutting a line.
Then you cut away. You print again. You cut away some more, and that's why it's reductive, because you keep reducing the surface area, and you can't go back. And
Yeah.
the first print again. You have to, if you're going to do an edition of 30, you have to do all 30 of them right then. But there was problems with this particular
Yes.
print.
But did you say when you cut away, you then do a lighter tone?
Yeah, you come up. So for instance, this one appears here to be just a shade lighter than that. So you would cut away. It's over the top. I mean, the thing about it is that there's a way of doing these kinds of, for instance, like the silk screens, where you have multiple silk screens. Like with the traditional Japanese woodblock prints, you're creating multiple wood blocks and applying different colors to those dedicated wood blocks that are going to carry and transfer that particular color over to the paper. Here, you only have one linoleum block, and that's it.
So did he do that, or does Brand X do that?
There's a team and actually what happens on these is that there's so many people working at one time on this that in order to keep consistency, because everybody's going to cut into the block a little bit differently, every 15 minutes they rotate. So there's not a point where, okay, Billy is over here cutting this, and this is just, that's his little area, and say Amy is over there doing her thing. They every 15 minutes they move, so there's a consistency, there's that distribution of handwork.